Welcome to East Coast DNA. Today we have a guest that's a new on the scene singer-songwriter, Abi Mack. Welcome, Abi.
Hi, everybody. It's nice to be here.
So, Abi, you reached out because you have a debut EP coming out.
It's a debut album actually.
Okay, amazing. So, right off the bat, I want to get into a little bit of your history too. But right off the bat, I'm curious, like where you're coming right out with a full album and you're working with somebody already like on the production end. Is this something that is a more recent development in your life, or is this something that you've been building to for a long time?
Yeah, so I've been singing since I was 2 years old. I've always loved singing, and I've been writing my own songs and material since I was 11. And I am somebody who struggles a lot with their mental health, depression, and anxiety being like the front, like for like what I struggle with the most. And being somebody who struggles with that, I always kind of felt peer pressure to do what everybody else wanted me to do, go to school, do the average thing. So I went to university, I worked as a manager, and I absolutely hated my life. And then I decided last year that I wanted to stop and not do that anymore. I cut some toxic people out of my life. And then all of a sudden I was like, you know what, I want to be a singer and I'm going to do this. And then I started working with Scott Ferguson. He's an amazing producer in Dartmouth and he's worked with a lot of astound people. And it just kind of happened where I had wrote my album before, like when I was like 16, 17, I'm 20 now. And like, I just, like this just poured out of me, and then I had 13 songs for an album like done like months ago, and then it just happened and now I'm releasing it November 1st. It's crazy.
That's amazing. And now I am curious, and now you can only dive into it as far as you want to here. But as far as you reference mental health struggles, I'm curious, has there been some kind of life change in the last few years that really kind of triggered the fact that you made these changes in your life and really focused on music?
I mean, yeah, I grew up like I'm 20. I graduated high school in 2022. I grew up during COVID. Like I was
Mhm.
15 when the pandemic hit, and when I graduated high school, we were still dealing with the waves of COVID, and I lost a lot of friends in high school due to suicide, due to mental health, and it's just to me life's short, and I did never realize that before COVID, before high school ended. And then people died and it was really hard for me, and then I realized that I could be a voice for those people who needed a voice, and I could be a voice for people like me because like I didn't want to be here when I was 15. I had planned to kill myself before I had even reached my 18th birthday, and then something changed and I wanted to stay and I wanted to be an advocate for people. I got help, I got better, I went to therapy, I cut toxic people out of my life who were just trying to destroy me. So I think that that was the biggest change in my life that had happened was I had cut down the people who were trying to destroy my success and just not happy for me. And I started trying to make myself proud instead of making other people proud.
We have talked a lot on previous episodes of this show with different artists about different aspects of mental health and a lot about finding individual safe spaces. Now, we focus on music, but it's also important that when you're going to be going out in public to enjoy these types of things too, that there are safe spaces out there for people. And I do worry a little bit because I'm also a father for your generation that did grow up and that transition from teenager into adulthood happening with so much isolation didn't afford an opportunity to kind of make some of those adjustments that some of us do. I mean, we didn't all, the older people out there haven't all done it in the most successful manner. A lot of us probably plowed ourselves with alcohol at that transition point too. So I'm sure that there's some healthier things where mental health is a little bit more at the forefront. It's something that is considered like maybe in a different generation, it would have taken you another 10, 20 years to come to some of the realizations that you have to at this young age. So there's pros and cons, but I am happy to see that you survived what seems like a low point in all of that, and you're still here today and able to share your music with us.
I mean, yeah, I think that the pandemic honestly shaped my generation and younger generations in such awful ways and also probably good ways as well. We're a lot more empathetic than a lot of the other generations, but at the same time, we did grow up isolated. I only wrote like two exams in my high school career, and that's not something that they prepare you for university and for furthering your education down the line. Not saying anybody has to go to university or anything. I didn't, and I did for a semester and then dropped out. I don't plan on going back. I plan on doing my music full time. There's different ways to learn, and I think that a lot of people in my generation found it really hard for the transition from high school to university to college because we weren't prepared for it. You're never prepared for it, but we especially weren't prepared for it. And I think that that contributed to a lot of the isolation. Like, we had to do therapy and school online, and we weren't even able to touch individuals or to go out into other areas in Nova Scotia in our home province. Like, I remember I grew up in Truro originally. I moved to Halifax a couple of years ago, well, I guess a year ago now. And I grew up in Truro, like Debert area, and I wasn't even able to come visit my friends in Halifax because we were that isolated. So I think that, yeah, it definitely will impact the future generations in positive ways, but also very negative ways as well.
So another question that I did have, and it kind of ties in with the fact that you have adjusted who you're surrounding yourself with.
Yeah.
I do know the power in surrounding yourself with positive people. I talk a lot about like-minded people. I'm probably a little biased when I talk about myself, but I tend to find that for the most part, especially around arts, I'm more positive minded. So I like to surround myself with like minded people in that way. And I think organically it's more positive people. But you did give a shout out already to Scott. You also mentioned him in your introductory email to me as well. So I'm curious how you have that connection with Scott in the first place and how that developed into creating an album together.
So yeah, Scott's amazing. I couldn't recommend him enough for anybody going into the industry. He's worked with a bunch of amazing people. It's a funny story of how I met Scott. I came back from a trip with my boyfriend's family from Spain in May, and my boyfriend looked at me and said, "You're not happy? You should record your song Why Me," which is the first song I've ever released. It's about abuse and about all of the things that were hard for me to talk about, demons that I suppressed, and I thought that other people might be suppressing too. So I wanted to release that song. And so he was like, just reach out to local studios because I didn't have the equipment to do that myself. And I was like, okay, I will. So I reached out to a bunch of them. And Scott was the only one that got back to me. I was nobody. I was 19 years old at the time. I was nobody. And he was just like, yeah, come in and we'll record it. And as soon as I recorded it, he was like, yeah, this is really good. And he just gave me such positive feedback that it was the push I needed to be like, okay, I want to do my album. Will you produce it for me? Will you record it for me? And he was like, absolutely. And then he has given me so many connections since then. Like Joanna Butler, she's amazing. And she actually wrote one of the songs that are going to be on my album. And it's kind of crazy how everything works out. I guess everything happens for a reason. But as a 19-year-old girl, I was scrolling through Facebook and YouTube and all the things, just trying to find a studio willing to take me for one song. And now here we are, 13 songs later, coming out November 1st, and it's kind of crazy. But that's how I know Scott, and he's awesome.
That's amazing. And it is really that's another benefit of these days is having that internet connection when used properly. There's a lot of cons to that as well, but you are able to reach out and find the right people to connect with when you're motivated to do so. So, congratulations on finding the right people to work with
Thank
and
you.
completing that project, which is a huge task for any musician.
Yeah.
Now, on the album itself, what kind of music are people looking for? I try not to lean too heavily on just pigeonholing somebody in a specific genre, especially these days with any modern tunes. But how would you describe what people will be getting if they sit down to listen to the album?
It's an interesting question because I always kind of describe myself as a pop artist. Like, I was always like, yeah, I'm a pop artist or whatever. And then I remember talking to Scott actually, and he was like, I think this album's pop soul. And I was
Oh,
like, okay, like that's fair because the lyrics are very emotional and they're very raw and real. And I was like, that's fair. And people have described me as like having an indie folk style as well. So I'm like, I'm kind of all over the place, but how I would probably like how I'd probably rank this album would be definitely more soulful pop with a little bit of folk flair, I guess.
And now for recording of the album, was instrumentation primarily yourself? Did you have a lot of other people have to come in to help you with this, or a little bit about the creation of the album, maybe?
Yeah, sure. So the creation of the album, I'm a songwriter at heart. Like I love singing, and singing's my passion, but songwriting for me was an escape for me for a long time. So all of the music except the last song in the album, written by Joanna Butler, was my music. And I kind of write songs a little bit differently. That's a weird question for me because a lot of people write the music to the songs and then they put lyrics to it. I hear
Mhm.
the music in my head and then I write the lyrics, but I see the lyrics first, if that makes sense. And I don't really write the music. So I would I would just write the lyrics and I'd hear it in my head. It would take me like 5 minutes, 10 minutes to write these lyrics, send it to Scott, and he was like, okay, this is the envision I have for it. And I would be like, okay, that's awesome. And so he would write all of the instrumentation for me to the thing that I created. So I would give him the melody and all of those things in my pitch. And that's how we kind of worked. And it was amazing because he is an incredible drummer, incredible on guitar, and he just kind of could envision things instrumentally that I couldn't.
Mhm.
And I think that was awesome. My first song, Why Me, actually has no instruments in it. And it's just me harmonizing, which was such a cool and different vibe, I think. And that's how I originally wanted the whole album to go. And Scott was the one who was like, I think we should add some instruments into this to make it really catch people's eye. And I'm so happy that we did. It's incredible.
And now you mentioned November 1st as a release date.
Yeah.
So you're also planning to correspond that with a release party in some formation. So you're looking for a little bit of assistance out there too, being that this is a little earlier than the actual performance. There might be a few people that are listening that might be able to help you out with what you're looking for there too, if you want to talk about that a little.
Yeah, so the album is set to come out on November 1st. We still have some fine tuning things to do, but I have a music distributor in United Masters and they're great online platform. So it's going to be sent out to everybody on every streaming platform, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, all of those things. As for the album release show, it's going to be either November 1st or November 2nd. The venue, I have a ton of them that are just, waiting to hear back from them. But
Hmm.
as of right now, I have two that I'm picking from. I should make a decision by next week. But as for the actual show, yeah, it's going to be all about mental health awareness, me singing my songs, some other local artists that I won't name right now because I just don't know what their availability is yet. But some other local artists are going to be joining me and some speakers for mental health. And I just think it's going to be an awesome night. And yeah, I'm looking for sponsors, I'm looking for speakers and artists to reach out to me. Local businesses, like preferably for sponsors, just so we can keep it local in Halifax. And I think yeah, it's going to be a fun night. All of the proceeds are going to go towards mental health associations like the Kids Helpline, the crisis line, all of those things. So yeah,
Closer to the date, send me more details and I'll share them through the East Coast DNA channels as well.
awesome. That'd be great.
And now beyond November 1st and beyond the release and the release date party, what plans do you have as far as Abby Mack?
That's such a loaded question. I mean, to be honest, like I started this as a 19-year-old kid. I had no idea what the heck I was doing. And now I'm 20 and I'm realizing that people, as I'm reaching out to people and as local artists are approaching me and I'm reaching out to more people for the show, I'm like, I can do this. Like, this is something I'm going to do in my life. And after that, I have a couple more songs that I'm going to be recording and probably releasing. I'd love to release another album because I have a whole other album written right now and I would love to release that. But as of right now, I just want to sing and write songs, and it would be awesome to be able to move to a place like Nashville or LA where I can do that full time. But I mean, yeah, I just want to sing and I hope people listen. I think that's the biggest thing for me. I want to sing on all the big stages and that kind of stuff. And that's my plan. I just want people to hear as much of me as they're willing to listen to. And I think I just want to help people. That's, I guess, my plan with all this.
And now, if people want to follow you on this musical journey and see where you're off to and see if you do have updates on potential recordings and new releases. Where do you prefer to send people that want to follow you and your music?
Yeah, so I'm a big TikTok gal. I think TikTok's awesome. And so I have it's official.Abi Mack on all my social medias. Instagram and TikTok are the things I use the most. And yeah, so I would recommend checking me out on there, plus Spotify and Apple Music as well. But for behind the scenes stuff, Instagram and TikTok are my biggest ones.
Amazing. We definitely tend to lean on Instagram the most here on my end. And we did use TikTok quite a bit at one point, but really got away from it. So I'm gonna have to sit down and actually look through and see what you have on there because I know there's a few music friends that I have now that I'm probably behind on some of the content that they've released through TikTok. Do you find as an East Coast artist, just on that specific topic, because I'm curious from my point of view as well, as an East Coast artist, that you get good traction through TikTok? Because I know historically we didn't so much. It seemed like Twitter, we didn't have as much traction as you would outside of the East Coast. And then TikTok was a little better, but still didn't have the kind of traction if you were like a New York artist or maybe even a Toronto artist. But do
That's a
you
fair
find it?
question. I mean, that's how that was the biggest thing for a long time that I was worried about was I am a girl from Jabert, Nova Scotia. Who is going to want to listen to me? And then I started TikTok and like I have 193 followers on there and I have nothing but confidence that that'll go up in the next couple months, whatever. But
Mhm,
honestly, I've met some incredible people off TikTok, like incredible East Coast business owners, incredible East Coast artists, and also incredible Canadian artists as well and artists from different parts of the world. I met this amazing guy in New York. I was there this summer performing a gig there, and it was amazing. And his name's Sheldon Ray. He's
mhm,
great. And he looked at me and he said, "Don't you ever let where you're from hold you back. And you post the TikTok, you post the YouTube video, you do it, and see what happens." And so then I started to really focus on TikTok, really focus on the social media presence, not just performing open mics and stuff. And I did it, and then my like follower rate in the last 2 months has gone up 83% since I started. Which you have 193 followers, but when I started with zero, that's pretty cool. And I have almost 10,000 likes on there. So I would say yes, it's really hard as an East Coast artist, but I think that a lot of people say, "Oh, I'm an East Coast artist. Or I'm an East Coast performer or influencer. I just can't do the TikTok thing. I can't do social media." But that's I think it's all about your mindset. It's a negative
mhm.
mindset. So if you go into it with a negative mindset, you're going to get negative results. And if you go into positive, you're going to get positive results. It's just my opinion. But yeah.
I like that it actually reinforces that there's a common theme all the way through the conversation about having a positive mindset and surrounding yourself with positive people and keeping yourself motivated and moving forward.
100%. Yeah.
So, is there anything else out there that you would like to specifically say out to your new fans as far as maybe where you would suggest people? You're an HRM person yourself now. You were in the Truro area. So maybe from a Nova Scotia perspective, is there anything you could recommend for anyone out there for mental health services, or is there anything else along those lines since you're looking at maybe donating to some like-minded charities?
Yeah, so like I said, I struggle with my mental health still to this day. When I was a kid, I did a lot. And I think the main thing that I can tell people that are like me, that are 15, 16, 17, dealing with stuff in high school is it's okay to not be okay, and it's okay to not have it all figured out. And there are services out there like 988 is the crisis helpline in Nova Scotia. There is the number, I think it's can't remember, but I can look it up later. It's the kids' health phone. It's awesome.
Mhm.
You can call them anytime, any day. It's an awesome service that I used when I was a kid. I called them a lot. I called them last year because I was having a crisis, and that's okay. I think that there's so much stigma around just not admitting that you're not okay, and I think that for me for a long time the biggest hurdle that I had as an artist and the biggest hurdle that I had as a person was I put up this persona of being the perfect person. I was like, no, I don't deal with anything. I'm awesome. I don't deal with any struggles. And then when I just let myself go and say, I'm actually not perfect, I'm actually very flawed as a person, that's when I started to flourish in my career, and also flourish as a person, and to be more compassionate person, and to be a more authentic version of myself. So I think the biggest piece of advice I can give is be yourself, and it's okay to not be perfect, and to use those resources to talk to your parents, to talk to teachers if you can't talk to anybody else.
It sounds like a very wise perspective. So thank you for sharing that. And on the whole note of sharing as well, since we're talking about new songs coming out, is there anything from this album that maybe we could share with our listeners as we play off from this episode today?
So the album itself has 13 songs on it. I have two songs out right now that are from the album. So
Hmm.
one's called Not Your Clown and one's Why Me. And Why Me is probably the most vulnerable song I've ever written. Like I said, it's about abuse, it's about all of the feelings, and people have asked me and tried to pinpoint what it's about specifically. And I'm like, just because I share a fragment of my story doesn't mean you're entitled to the whole story. But I think that a lot of people, I want people to be able to interpret every song on the album for as however they want to interpret it, not just my lived experiences. I think the most important part of my album is that there's two halves of the album. There is six songs and then six songs again, and then one intro track. That's why there's 13. The
Yeah.
first six songs are about me surviving. The album's called I Survived and Now I Will Thrive. The first six songs are about me surviving and about me living day to day for other people. And the last six songs are about how I took all of that pain, all that anger, and I made it so I could thrive as myself, even though I didn't have the support of the other people. But realizing I never actually had it. So I guess the biggest part people can take away from it, I hope so anyway, is that it's okay to not be okay, and you're gonna get through the storm, and there's gonna be light at the end of the tunnel. I think the last song written by Joanna Butler, it's called "Keep on Breathing," and it's one of the best written songs, and I'm really excited for people to hear that one.
That's really exciting to hear. I can't wait to hear the full thing. And I look forward to hearing what else you have coming out as well. It's a very inspirational story, and I hope that you stick with it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you too. And for people that are listening at home, we're playing off with Why Me? Thanks.
Thanks.
I'm damaged and broken, and I can't lie. I won't never know what's right again. But I know what feeling scared is. One thing you've taken is my voice. One thing that I've lost is I can't trust anyone. So why me? Why wake me up in the middle of the night over and over again? Why pick a girl with all the problems? Why pick a girl at all? I'm tainted with your poison. Why can't I just be free from you? Mama doesn't know if she's coming or going. Fits you like a glove. I don't even know what the hell is wrong with you. You must be sick in your mind. Hate that I ever trusted you when I was just a girl who had no one. Seems alright for you. So why me? Why wake me up in the middle of the night over and over again, so I won't escape you? Why pick a girl your poison, but I won't be broken.